Okay, that's all. It's going great. Whew. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So, the agenda for today is going to learn a little bit about why work in higher education, some of the career paths in higher ed, what jobs can I apply for with a bachelor's degree? I've had that question lots of times, so we'll go over a little bit about that. Application preparation. It is a little bit different when you're applying to higher ed. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Finding jobs in higher education. Strengthen personal brand. This is an important piece that we'll talk about. The difference between universities and community colleges. They are fundamentally different. So we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. A little bit about interview preparation and some next steps. And we'll make sure we have a little bit of time at the end for questions if you have any. So just a little bit about me and how I got interested in higher education. I began at my local community college. This was over 20 years ago when I was in my master's program and I got a job as an instructor in a program called Displaced Homemaker Program. Basically, they don't have that program anymore, but it was basically for women who were getting back to the workforce, where they had some kind of life crisis. They took this class, and so I was the instructor for that for a few years. And then I decided, once I graduated with my master's, I had a friend who worked at Western Washington University in Bellingham, Washington. That's where I'm from. That worked in career services. And she said, well, why don't you apply? We have a temporary position. And so I did. And it's a great way to get a foot in the door if you want to get into higher ed, is to look for those temp jobs and then possibly get on permanent after that. Uh, and this is what I did. I interviewed for the temporary, which is actually was a pretty easy interview then. I interviewed with the director, and so I got the job. I did the temp job for about 5 months, and then the permanent job came up as a career counselor, and I had to apply for that, even though I was working that job. And so I had to get my application materials together. I had to go through 3 interviews, with one with the search committee, the other with the staff, and then the third one with the director. And so that was pretty typical. And I had to also do a presentation because that was part of the job, is that we do workshops. And so we had to do a presentation. And so having gone through all of that, then I got the job, and this was back in 2006. And so I worked at Western for all those years up until 2023, and then I live in Oklahoma now, and then started at WGU about 6 months ago. So I'm rather new to this university, and so that is my journey to working for higher ed, something that I have really enjoyed over the years. And I got my job through networking. So I can attest that networking works. Getting in touch with people. I wouldn't have known about the job unless I had a friend who told me about it. So just so I can attest that networking absolutely works. And so Micall is here um, with us today. Would you like to talk a little bit about your journey to higher ed, Micall?
Yes, absolutely. And Sandy is the perfect person to be doing this workshop because she has so much experience in higher ed. And I didn't realize, Sandy, that you started as an instructor. So it was really fun
Yeah,
just kind of hear your breakthrough into higher ed. Um, I have been in higher ed for my entire career as well. I got my master's at the University of Montana in counseling. And as part of that master's degree, we had to do an internship. And I did two internships, one at a high school and one at the University of Montana in a program called TRIO Student Support Services. I don't know if anybody is familiar with that program, but it's for first generation college students. So, students who are the first in their families to go to college. I was a first generation student, so I was very excited to have that internship. Through that experience, I ended up getting a full time job when I graduated with TRIO. And so my breakthrough into the higher ed space officially was through experiential learning, was through that internship. It helped me build connections. To Sandy's point, it helped me network with people across the university. So I started my career as an academic coach at TRIO. I was also an instructor where I taught like academic learning strategies similar to Sandy. So I kind of started in instruction as well. And then after about a year of being in that position, a career coach position opened up at that university. And I was familiar with the hiring manager. I knew a lot of people on that team. And so I was able to network my way into that position too. I still had, I think, about 3 interviews I had to go through to actually get that role. So then I spent a couple years as a career coach before moving into WGU and have been here since 2021. So I have been here for about 4 years. So that is my journey. I always like to highlight the value of experiential learning because it does give you those network connections. It gets you some exposure. And so it made a huge difference for me and enabled me to get my foot in the door within higher education.
All right. Thank you, McCall. So keep going here. Okay, so why work in higher education? Many of us would have different reasons. Some maybe they're looking to make an impact in what they do, contributing to society for the greater good. All of that sort of blends together that they're wanting to help students. They're very student centered, and I was a first generation college student as well. Neither one of my parents even graduated from high school, so I came from very meager beginnings where I knew I wanted to go to college, but I was a first generation. So really loved the idea of maybe helping students figure college out. And so that was one of my reasons for wanting to work in higher education. Job security may sound strange, but I always felt secure in my job. Uh, so it it uh, and I think for the most part we are secure. But of course, the current climate, we just never know now when we doing some shifts with departments. Maybe they're consolidating. But for the most part, this good job security, great benefits, and work-life balance. This is really true. If you're full time, um, and you're in an environment where you're with a great team, where you can have that work-life balance, where it's so important for us today. You're in a great environment for professional development. That it the higher education always values growth in their employees, in their students. It just it just saturates the whole community where people are thinking about their professional development, and they're encouraged to do that. So there are many reasons why people want to work in higher education. These are just some of them. I'm just looking at. Okay, some career paths in higher ed. There's many career paths, but just in a very, very general way, academic faculty, if you want to teach, do the research, do publications, uh, um, then that's a whole different side of the house, as we put it. Where if you want to get into teaching the academic faculty, that's a whole different side of things. Then there's the administration, where if you're in enrollment, in advising, student affairs, academic affairs, we're again all on the academic side of the house. Support services like us, career services, even financial aid, diversity and inclusion. So there's lots of support services that different areas that you could start in. And a lot of people will move up to the ranks in leadership, that if maybe they want to, get to be a dean of a college, a provost, or even president. It takes a lot to be the president of a college. But that's just some of the career paths that some people go. And what jobs can I apply for with a bachelor's degree? I hear this all the time. Is that, can I get a job in higher education with just a bachelor's degree? And I never say just. Be proud of your bachelor's degree. So there's lots of things that you can do, and lots of jobs you can work in higher ed with a bachelor's degree. Student affairs, and again, advising, admissions, academic advisor. Again, this will all depend on the institution. I've seen academic advising positions that require a master's. I've also seen them where they require a bachelor's, a minimum of a bachelor's. But there are many student support roles, especially if you want a job where it's student facing, where you are working with students, not necessarily behind the scenes, like the administrative and office roles. Program coordinators, office managers, or grant coordinator, just as an example. It just depends on, you know, where you see yourself. What's the environment that you would like to be in. Also, finance and operations, be it in financial analyst or an assistant, procurement, in the registrar's office. So think of a higher ed institution as like a small city where they need everything. They need all industries all across the board, all kinds of jobs, even the specialized in the technical roles, like IT support. They definitely have and need that department. Even a librarian assistant, social media specialist, fundraising assistant, just to name a few. They have, different marketing departments, assessments. So there's lots and lots of different roles. You all depends on the department requirements and qualifications. So, like I said, this is very generalized. It's because every institution is different, and how they use their uh, um, talent and what they require for their talent. And so that's why you have to really look at the job description very carefully. Okay. Finding jobs in higher ed. Yes, yes. Uh, uh, a lot of people really want to cast a wide net when there's job searching. They want to see if anything sticks. It's not a great idea to do that in higher ed. It's actually not a great idea to do that in any job search. Um, for higher ed, it's very specialized. So you want to set up your search alert with multiple keywords. You want to look at these roles, look at and review the multiple roles that appeal to you. What are the qualifications? What are they looking for? And other things, special considerations, what type of institution? Is it a private college? Is it a community college? Is it a four-year research university? So you really want to look at the type of institution. Investigate the benefits, the culture, the mission. You always want to look at the mission statements of any institution and also look at the size of institution to see, which feels right for you. And I put in some job sites that you could go to. I really like these. I like higher ed jobs.com. Great site. Thank you, McCall. I was going to ask you to do that.
Of course.
The Chronicle of Higher Ed, also communitycollegejobs.com. So these are just a few so you can take a look at. And I find jobs there, hundreds of jobs on highered.com. So these are just a few of the higher ed sites that you can specialize in that. Also, look in your area. Wherever you are there any local colleges near you? Local community colleges, even a private college, university, public university. Look in your area. Go to their website. Take a look at their job postings, and just to take a look to see and get familiar. And if it's something, if it's a college that you're really interested in, then you can really try to do some networking, which absolutely works. I'll get to that in a sec. Now, preparing your application. This is so important. Create a tailored, impactful resume. So focus on outcomes and achievements whenever possible. So think in terms of not just tasks. Look at the outcomes of the task. What were the skills you used to do those tasks? And that's something that we can also help you with. That if you are seeing a job at an institution that, boy, I sure would love that job, uh, get some help from us as well. We can help you create and tailor your target, your resume to that position and get the keywords. Prioritize your most relevant roles. So what they want to see is what is relevant to them, to that position. And so they're going to look at the resumes that are most relevant and that can provide evidence of those skills. So also writing a compelling cover letter that tells a story that connects your experience to the job description. I'll tell you guys, these are so important that your application materials be just spectacular. Look to see that there's no errors. And they will read your cover letter. So let your cover letter tell your story and how your experience connects to the job description. Do I use a CV or a resume? I get that question all the time too. For a CV, basically, is you use a CV for applying for academic positions, usually faculty or applying for grad school, because there's no limit to the length of a CV. You ask any maybe a tenured instructor, or teacher, and how long is your CV? Some will say, oh no, it's 20 pages. And some are, because they put everything. It's an academic bio is their CV. They put anything that they've published, anything, that they've done on campus, presentations. Oh, so they put everything on their CV. They want to emphasize their involvement and their academic accomplishments. For a resume, You're emphasizing skills and experience targeted to a specific position. And this is something that you'd be using to apply for most positions. It's a targeted resume. Okay. Higher ed application tips. Uh, so application process may take longer than typical business hiring, and this is so true. It took 4 months for me to get hired as on my permanent position. Sometimes it takes up to 6 months. Sometimes it's only 3, but the application process could take longer than you're used to. Like I said before, all materials matter. Your CV, your resume, cover letter. Always check for errors. Have a second pair of eyes on it. I have seen too many times. I have been on many search committees. I have led a few of those search committees, and I have reviewed so many applications. And I have seen in cover letters where they put the wrong institution because they're obviously applying for multiple institutions, universities, but they put the wrong university in their on the cover letter. Very common mistake. And so you definitely want to check for errors. Just a little bit about an interview format. More than likely, it could be a panel. I had a panel from the department. So just kind of be prepared to have a panel interview. Don't forget in your application, in your cover letter, especially, where you connect your experience with the mission of the institution or department. That really shows initiative that you took the time to understand and learn about their institution and their mission. Because again, every university is a little bit different. So connect your experience with the mission. Okay. So as you go along, strengthen your personal brand and expand your network. So what does that mean? So that means enhance your LinkedIn profile. So you can get your LinkedIn profile reviewed by us. Just as a shout out, that if you've not had that uh, uh, your LinkedIn profile reviewed, we are happy to do that for you. Because when I was on the search committee, I would always go to the applicant's LinkedIn profile just to take a look to see if it's consistent. And that's another thing too, that you want all of your information to be consistent across all your platforms, your LinkedIn, your resume, your cover letter, even in Handshake. So the platform that we have at WGU. So you want to be consistent with all your online brand. Look for ways to build skill sets. So if you're looking through job descriptions and job postings, and you say, "Oh, this job looks great, but I don't have this minimum requirement." So that's why you can start looking for ways to build those skill sets, either through an internship, maybe you can volunteer with one of your local nonprofits or your church or something like that, where you can focus on the skill that you want to gain. They also love the idea of leadership. So look for leadership roles for, all of us aren't leaders, but try getting out of your comfort zone and look for some leadership opportunities that you could do. Expanding your network. This is another truly important strategic move of when you're applying for different positions. Tap into the formal and informal networks. A couple of really great ones is WGU's Alumni Ask a Grad. If you've not heard of it, it was launched, I think, almost 6 months ago. And it's a great platform for students and alum to ask career questions. And you could go into this platform and say, I'm really interested in higher education positions. Is anybody out there working in higher ed? Would love to talk to you because you're asking about 300,000 WGU alumni. Now there is also the LinkedIn alumni tool, which is a great uh, um, introduction to WGU alumni on LinkedIn. Because the last time I looked, there's about 366,000 WGU alumni on LinkedIn. And we have an alumni tool instruction sheet on our website that you can learn how to use this. Very easy to learn to use the alumni tool. And once you get connected to a few people, then you can ask for informational interviews. Now, an informational interview is basically you are in control. There's not many things that we can say that we're in control of when it comes to job searching. But informational interviews is one thing that you have control over. And this is where you, thank you, Micall. She's right on top of it. So this is where, if you are connected to, say, a WGU alum, and they're willing to talk to you about their job in higher ed, and this is where that informational interview comes in, where you're going to have some thoughtful questions. What do you like about your job working in higher ed? What don't you like? How did you get your job? What advice do you have for me? So this is kind of where you want to get their career journey as well. So let it be about them for a while. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. Okay. Now this can be very interesting. Difference between universities and community colleges for job seekers. Hiring process, universities, like I said, it could be 3 to 6 months waiting period. Community colleges, 1 to 3. So it is a little bit less in general. But again, every university and community college are different. For compensation, again, depending on the institution and specific role, whether they're a private or public university, can really vary. Their pay scale can really vary. Read the job description carefully so you can see if there is a pay scale, if there is, what is the compensation. Okay. A big deal, campus culture. For just a couple of things between universities and community college, because I've worked for both. Mission and values. For, in general, again, university prestige, scholarship, global impact for a lot of universities. That's their mission and values. For community college, equity, inclusion, and community service. Much more closer to the community. Their student body in the university, more traditional, the full-time and younger population, the 18 to 22, that are starting their college career. And that was the typical and traditional age groups that I worked with back when I worked for Western. Washington University, is that we had that traditional 18 to 22. And the non-traditional, had less population of that. Where the community college, much more diverse and often part-time because you've got folks that are working and mostly adult learners. So, so a community college, the population is a little bit different than the traditional university. So it just depends on what you are comfortable with and what population you would like to work with. The environment, where the university can be competitive and scholarly, where the community college are more collaborative and more practical. So again, very different campus cultures. And depending on what you find, more appealing, depends on, what direction you may want to go or start with. Just a little bit about interview prep. Be prepared to discuss if you're going for a teaching role, because with a master's degree, you could apply for teaching roles in community college. Sometimes in a university will take a master's as well, but you've got to be able to talk about your teaching experience or your leadership philosophy. Contributions to research, advising, or student success, they're looking for people that have worked with students. So if you are interested, gee, I would love to work for higher ed and work with students, look for ways that you can be student facing now. So you can maybe do tutoring or some other way where you can work with student peers, somewhere where you can get some experience working with students. Uh, Diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. This is a big one where it's not only, do you, are you for the DEI efforts? And can you tell me about that? They want to know what you have done. Have you led a fundraiser? Have you actually done a program for DEI? So that's what they want to know, is they want to know specifics. And prepare thoughtful questions about department goals, because you can go onto the department website and learn a lot about that department. So a lot of preparation goes into getting prepared for these interviews, multiple interviews more than likely. So next steps, this is something that you could do. Identify your target. Look at the different roles. Look at lots of roles that are posted. Research the institutions, maybe in your local area or anywhere around the country. Prepare your application materials. If you need help, you want to let us know. Enhance your LinkedIn profile. Expand your network. And practice interviews. We can also help you with that, where we can do a mock interview with you. Okay. Let's get to where if there's any other questions that you might have. All right. Okay, what is a CV? It's a CV is basically curriculum vitae, um, which is what they call like the academic bio of your academic accomplishments, and putting basically everything in your CV. Uh-oh. And we have uh, a web page on our career services site about CVs. Um, how do I pursue a career as a dean? A career as a dean. You know what? Ask a dean. You could, that's one thing you can definitely do. Look at job postings for deans. And mostly deans are uh, from certain colleges within the university. Like when I worked at Western Washington University, there were 7 colleges, and then that means there are 7 deans. And I suspect, and I didn't know all of them, they all had PhDs. So education is a big factor um, in uh, in climbing the ranks. So it it's so different. Yeah, it's so different. Again, go to highered.com, look for any positions as deans. Oh, let's see. Oh, okay. Applying for jobs here at WGU. Now, Micall, I've only been here, 6 months or so. Love to work in student success, career services, any other student services. And I only know my experience, with interviewing and applying for career advisor. So McCall might be a better one to talk about applying here at WGU.
Yeah, I can chime in, Sandy.
Okay, okay.
I think that for WGU, and feel free to things, Sandy, or add your thoughts too. But WGU is very mission driven. So I think that making sure that you kind of understand what the core values are at WGU and being able to speak to those in your application materials, specifically your cover letter. And then, Laura, you said you're finishing your MBA. What other credentials would help? I would say that really, really depends on the specific job description that you're looking at. So, as is true for any university or non university role, making sure that you're looking at especially the required skills and knowledge areas. That's going to be important to see if you can check those boxes. The other thing too about WGU is, and Sandy, you have a lot of experience in traditional higher ed, so let me know
Mm-hmm.
if you agree or disagree with this, but it's
Okay.
a very, very innovative culture. It moves a lot faster than traditional education institutions. And so being able to speak to your adaptability, your technical skills, like we're always taking on new technologies and products and trying to be kind of at the forefront of introducing those to students. And AI is a big thing right now in higher ed, and especially at online universities like WGU. So, being at this university that is highly innovative and moves quickly, I think that's something that would be good to highlight in your materials too, is just your ability to pivot quickly, to learn new skills, especially in the realm of technology. That would be very advantageous as well.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you'd add to that, Sandy, or
I don't think so. Thank you.
Yeah, I hope that helps, Laura. Let us know if you have more questions. Stan has a question too, Sandy. Should we have PhDs before getting hired into higher ed?
Right. I was just looking at that. No. Uh, uh, a lot of faculty positions may require a PhD, especially if they're into research, but not always. Uh, um, that's why looking at a lot of individual postings for different positions will give you an idea of the education credentials that they're looking for. So I'd say no, you don't need a PhD unless you want to be, a teaching at a four-year university that requires their teachers to be to have a PhD. But a lot of them don't require a PhD. It's preferred. Let's put it that way. It's preferred. Even a community college, they may prefer someone with a PhD, but the minimum requirements may be a master's. So that's one of the difference too. When you look at the requirements of a position and it says minimum requirements, and let's just say master's degree. Preferred requirements, a PhD. So what you have to meet is those minimum requirements to get past the first wave of applications. So it's always going to have to to rely on the job posting and see what they have.
I think too, Sandy, if that's okay, if I hop in,
Sure.
Stan had said that he's got a master's in chemistry and is doing a master's in data science. Um, Higher ed can be such a niche industry, like Sandy was saying. There's so many different types of positions, and sometimes like there's roles that you've never even heard of. And so the other thing you can do too, if anybody here is comfortable using something like ChatGPT or Perplexity or a different AI chatbot, is leverage AI. Ask, hey, this is my background. These are the degrees that I have. What are some common job titles in community colleges or in four-year institutions that I might want to look at that you haven't heard of before, especially in an industry like higher ed, where I'm sure Sandy can attest to this. Like there are job titles that you've never heard of in other
Mm-hmm.
industries, and so just
Mm-hmm.
um, doing that too, using AI. To Sandy's point about networking, you can use something like LinkedIn to look at the different titles, work at various universities, check university website, staff pages, faculty pages. But definitely, like, AI is a resource that you can use to try to get a little bit more perspective around what maybe some of those position titles might be that you could be looking for, that you could even put into LinkedIn as a search and see what comes up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's interesting now that we have to add AI to everything we do.
Right.
It's it's something new, but it's been going on for a few years now. But everybody is just sort of getting in the groove of using AI, and it can be really helpful. Really helpful. Yeah.
Sandy, Laura asked,
Okay.
maybe you
Oh,
saw this one already, if having more than one master's degree can help you stand out.
well, I think it depends on what it is. There, uh, boy, that's a good question. And I don't know if I have a good answer to that, McCall. What would you say to that?
I think I think it depends on the position. And the other thing, Laura, is that as kind of Sandy was talking about tailoring your resume, you don't always have to, like, it might be advantageous given a particular position to have more than one master's degree. For example, in Stan's case, having a chemistry master's and a data science master's, like, those are two
Hmm.
different skill sets that may come with those. And so it might be advantageous if you're applying to like a general research position in that case. to show that you have the skill sets from both of these degree programs. But there might be other circumstances where maybe just emphasizing one of your master's degrees is going to make sense. And so I always kind of tell people that your resume is like a storytelling platform, and you're going to tell a different story depending on the audience. And that audience is the job description. And so if that job description is not really something that aligns with one of your degrees, but it does with another, then you might leave one of your degrees off that resume for that job posting. Whereas a different job posting, it might be more advantageous to include both of your degrees because there are relevant skills from both of them for that job posting.
Mm-hmm.
So you always just kind of want to think about like, what story do I want to tell this person? It's not to minimize any degree that anybody has by any means. It's just a matter of these people only spend 7 to 8 seconds on a first scan of a resume. And so you want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that you're showing them that relevant information so that you are at the top of their pile, if that makes sense.
Yes, exactly. Well put. Uh, so when you're trying to stand out, it does make sense that think of think of it this way too, that your application materials, and it sounds very strange, but it is not about you. It is not about, I've got these 2 degrees, which I'm very proud of. And unfortunately, that it's got to mean something to them, your audience. So a lot of times I've had to take things off of my resume that I was very proud of, but it was not relevant. And so it doesn't feel good to do things like that, but it gets down to that because like McCall said, you've got about 7 seconds of their attention, their first sweep of your resume. So yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Sandy, to kind
Yeah.
of keep it like employer focused as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And those of us in higher ed will tell you that when we have to leave off degrees on our resume, we are not happy campers because higher ed
Absolutely.
folks love education. So,
Uh-huh.
um,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Any other questions today? Okay. You definitely, if you think of some before we end, just put it in the chat. So just a little bit about us. Oh, good. Glad you found it useful. Great, great, great questions. Yes. Some of our services, one-on-one advising. It can help you review your brand, your resume, cover letter, your LinkedIn profile. Check out our website. We've got some self-service tools, career guides, videos, and recorded webinars. Workshops like this one, drop-ins, also employer engagement sessions. Check out Handshake for the events to see if you're interested in attending an employer session. Get Handshake access, big interview access, which is also on our website. Pathway U, if you're interested in doing a few career assessments, you can always ask us about these. And if it's something that uh, you want to do or interested in, please take our survey and our website, wgu.edu/career services. Here's our YouTube channel and our email, careers@wgu.edu, and our phone number, 877-214-7008, option 3. Take a look at Handshake for other workshops and drop in hours. Join us on LinkedIn. Hey, I want to thank you all for coming today and joining us. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, thank you for taking time out today. Thanks all. And I will stop our recording.